Grixis versus Burn. 2 copies, we mentioned, of Tasigur here. As one of our key cards in the Grixis deck. If he can't draw them, remember he's not actually playing Serum Visions, he can, over time, Thought Scour into Kolaghan's Command to get a Tasigur going as well.
That's pretty slow against Burn. You're right. The access is a little bit higher than it might look. Yeah, Kolaghan's Command is one that Ted will at least be trimming as we go to the sideboard games. He has a few expensive spells, the 4 Cryptic Commands, the 3 Kolaghan's Command. I also don't love Search for his content in the matchup that we'll be seeing him move off of as we go to the sideboard games. Hey, bingo!
Oh, I was going to say...
Goblin Guide reveals a land.
Unlike the 21st square.
somehow found 5 in a row.
Oh, we got there. If you can check off 21 without a bingo, I'd give you the win even without it. Okay.
I might see Collective Brutality using 2 modes, which previously was my only square that did not give me a bingo.
Right.
Ted's probably going to cast it for 3 modes if he draws it.
To be fair, you got it on the 20th square, not the 21st. So you had one more to give?
Right.
All right.
You had a little bit of wiggle room, but I defended well.
See, it's the pigeonhole principle that you got. Anyway, let's take a look at John's hand. Ted actually has a very important card here. Inquisition of Kozilek is great against Burn.
It gives you an answer to Eidolon of the Great Revel before it comes down, which is what you want. That's actually part of the strength of playing Spell Snare in this matchup. It looks like Shard Volley's in the mix here.
Yeah, okay, we have Shard Volley, Monastery Swift Spear, Eidolon of the Great Revel, Grim Lavamancer, and Inspiring Vantage. And as you mentioned, Ted is going to go ahead and take that Eidolon of the Great Revel.
Pretty easy pick. There is going to be pressure for him to answer these creatures going forward. He has a lot of stuff that does that. Fatal Pushes, Lightning Bolts, that main deck Collective Brutality.
This is interesting, Ryan. John Whetstone is playing 4 copies of Shard Volley today. That's usually something you see in the flex spot of Burn as a 1 of, or sometimes 0. No, he's got 4 of them. And to make room for them, here's the bold thing he did. He's down to 2 Lightning Helixes, and he cut all his Skull Cracks.
Yeah, I believe that this is something that SCG's own Patrick Sullivan's a really big fan of. Very well known for his playing Burn. He feels like Skull Crack is really difficult to leverage. It costs 2 mana. It's a 2 mana 3-point burn spell where your opponent's not always gaining life, that sort of thing. Whereas Shard Volley, it costs 1. It closes the game more easily.
That it does. John follows up with 2 more 1-drops on that turn. It was a Swift Spear and a Grim Lavamancer. And we see Collective Brutality, the 1 of in the main from Ted.
It's a good one to draw.
You can just keep checking off your box.
Nah, this is definitely a 3-mode Brutality. I don't even care what cards are in his hand. He has so many of them. There's so much you have to deal with. He knows he's hitting a spell here. There's at least that Shard Volley left over.
Yeah, and this is one of those things, it's a real feel-bad from Burn, because when you draw your opponent extra cards with Goblin Guide, you frequently feel like, yeah, it's not going to matter. And then when they discard them all to Escalated Brutality, you say, oh, every one of those mattered now.
Yep, that's pretty brutal.
See what you did.
That was an accident, but, I will take credit anytime it's given.
So, gain 2 life, kill Goblin Guide, take your Shard Volley.
Yeah,
that's just insane. That's so hard.
That's a good one. I mean, Ted still needs to solve these other 2 creatures, but John's not left with much in the way of leftovers.
It's so much for 2 mana.
We're also dealing with a situation where it's relatively likely that at some point Ted gets to 4 mana and Snapcaster Mages a Collective Brutality.
Sure. And you see there, just to show, John draws a card, hits with Swift Spear, says go. Just all the wind taken out of the sails.
We're kind of at a point where it looks like Ted's probably going to have to take damage for his red source. Looks like there's Polluted Delta in hand. He actually discarded Steam Vents. I think that the Steam Vents is a good amount better than the Polluted Delta. He already has cards in his graveyard. If he drew a red spell, he'd want to cast it this turn.
He has a Field of Ruin in his hand. Now, I don't know if we have time for that kind of play, but there is a non-basic on John's side.
Yeah, I suppose Field of Ruin is actually relevant in this matchup because John's not going to be able to drum up a basic Plains.
Oh, that's right. It actually takes John off of some gold cards he could draw here.
Right.
But Polluted Delta will be the play for now for Ted.
Yeah, there's no red spell available just yet, so I suppose finding red source if there's no other castable spell off of Fielded Rune or just playing an untapped duel, kind of the same thing.
Yeah. John keeps going to work with the Grim Lavamancer. It's 2 damage on the end step.
It is notable that if he's not using the Delta mana this turn, playing the Steam Vents tapped actually gains him a life versus the Polluted Delta as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes 1 point is what the whole Burn matchup's about.
He's going to Thought Scour himself. when John goes to attacks. I guess if he draws into Fatal Push, that would matter here.
I am kind of interested in why you would do this on your opponent's turn, because if he drew Tassiger the Golden Fang, casting it on his turn is so good.
Yeah, the disguising of information, I guess, doesn't really matter. Burn's just going to do what Burn's going to do.
Right.
We see Boros Charm from John. That's going to send Ted down to 9 and gives Monastery Swift Spear a prowess trigger. We're getting close. Yeah, Ted takes 2 more, goes to 7.
Yeah, and the delta's an issue here.
It's going to send him down, yeah.
He really needs to find a way to deal with both of these creatures quickly. Snapcaster Mage on Collective Brutality on the following turn would be a pretty big deal. Though he does not have that much life to play with at this point.
Yeah, down to 5. So actually, he went to 6 in that attack instead of 7 as Grim Lavamancer joined in on the attack. Yeah.
Right, and now we're in a position with Lightning Bolt coming off there with 1 Lavamancer activation is lethal. So Ted definitely at least has to deal with that Lavamancer on this turn. He has to have something for a top deck. Best possible, I suppose. Field of Ruin is land for turn, no damage off that. Cast Snapcaster Mage, flashback Collective Brutality, deal with the Lavamancer, gain 2 life, figure it out from there.
Yeah, that's where it starts. Is that enough? Unclear, but we'll see. Yes, you want to escalate once. You want life gain and -2 on Lavamancer.
Right.
I think that's what Ted's in for as well. Here we see Snapcaster Mage. Yeah, it's got to be the Collective Brutality. And you can escalate cards on flashback.
Hey, it's 2 modes. I'm just going to check that
Let's see if you can get the entire card. I don't think we've ever had a blackout.
Right. Doing pretty well.
You have 4 squares left? Yeah, all right. Let's go for it. Let's set a record.
I have 5. All right, don't misrepresent it.
Okay, it's a free space.
No. I have actual 5.
Oh, okay. Oh, there's actually a 5 one. All right, all right.
Ooh, and Searing Blaze there for John.
Oh, and the Searing...
No land, so it's 1 shy, but...
Yeah, so Ted back down to 1. That makes the Swift Spear lethal.
A
lot of cards off the top.
Plenty of spells are lethal from here as well.
Yeah, now, so search for Azcanta from Ted, a tap land and a go. I think he has a Terminate, but needs a brick here on John's side. Swing the Swift Spear. Terminate. Do you have a burn spell? Eidolon. It's not a burn spell, but
it's pretty darn close.
Yeah.
You can theoretically engineer some situations where you Cryptic Command or Tassiger your way out of this if John draws a lot of blanks, but this one's going to be real tough. The odds are extremely low.
Yeah, you are right, though. There are some cards in his deck that don't trigger it. Are they in his hand? That's a question.
I think he just drew Spell Snare, which that's not the time to do it.
Attacks with Eidolon. I mean, Ted's going to activate... Oh, it's Creeping Tar Pit to block. Okay, hold on. And another Eidolon.
Ooh, and now the Spell Snare is good.
Okay.
Now the Spell Snare is good. Yeah, that attack by John, I did not love that.
Yeah, I'd missed there was a Creeping Tar Pit there. Maybe John missed it as well.
Right. He kind of quietly showed up.
But we're still playing on borrowed time. John draws a card and says go. Ted's going to activate this Azcanta, and we'll see if he dies immediately. Yes, he does. Lightning Helix.
Not much you can do about that.
No, he needed to evade another draw step. And you see Logic not Cryptic Command. Yeah, Ted may have been able to get there. He was just a turn too late.
Yeah, so just kind of an argument to not activate the Azcanta because John's action will likely be held onto if you leave up your counter magic and maybe you draw it. But if you don't have it and you don't draw it, it's not like it got better. And also, even if you do find it and it's 1 spell and John just draws another burn spell, the game is still over.
Yeah, do you think, say Ted doesn't activate it and goes to his turn, is that Helix coming down on the upkeep anyway?
It's coming out at some point, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, like, the hope of not activating it would be to bluff a counterspell and then hope to draw it off the top.
If there's just 5 mana being left open and Ted has a card in hand, there's a pretty strong argument for John waiting to draw a card.
Okay.
So you can just cast 2 spells.
Yep.
Really tough to answer 2 spells from 5 mana. So you likely wouldn't have seen it fired off right away. But in a time, John still needs to brick on some draws for Ted to win the game.
Yeah. So game 1 goes over to Burn. Showcasing some of the difficulty there on Ted's side. He did, we had a fully escalated Collective Brutality. And even then, things got difficult on Ted.
Right. And it felt like John, he almost gave it away with that Eidolon attack into the Creeping Tar Pit, but still had percentage pretty heavily in his favor with Ted just being at 1.
Yeah, I do want to go back to what you'd said was one of the key plays here for Ted. If you look at the way that game played out, if you'd given Ted a Tasigur at any point in those first 5 turns, this game I think ends the other way. The 4-5 would have just been incredible.
Yep, absolutely. It swings your life total a little bit higher because you have this giant blocker, and it pressures John's life total.
All right, so let's look at some sideboards. On Ted's side, he's got Surgical Extractions, Anger of the Gods, 2 more Collective Brutalities, Spellbomb, Ceremonious Rejection, Staticaster, Karanos, Vendilion Click, Dispel, Engineer Explosives, Disdainful Stroke, and Counter Squall.
So the 2 Collective Brutality, that card's excellent. You want as many of those as you can get your hands on. The Dispel is quite good, 1 mana counter for most of the cards in John's deck. The Counter Squall is really good for a damage race. It covers a lot of what John is up to. As long as you cover the creatures, Counter Squall will be an excellent spell. The rest of the stuff here is not particularly good. I think Anger of the Gods is a little bit slow. The fact that its sorcery speed's a big deal. If you had like Kozilek's Return in the sideboard, there's a stronger argument for that card.
Where it can catch the haste creatures before damage.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can see that. Is Vendilion Click okay as it kind of does that?
So there's probably not really Searing Blazes post-sideboard, so that's a little bit of an argument for Click. But mostly you're just trying to get your 4 and 3 mana spells out of your deck when you're sideboarding anyway. It's kind of a removal spell. I don't hate it, but it's also pretty medium.
On John's side, he actually has 4 Rakdos Charm to start his sideboard, and that's a pretty interesting one. A lot of times we'll see that spot in the sideboard of Burn as a green card. You'll see Destructive Revelry, but instead he's gone for Rakdos Charm.
It's a nice flexible one. It's pretty good against the Hollow One deck, I have to figure.
I think so, yeah. You can exile the yard or destroy a Hollow One.
Yep.
I'd take that. We see 3 Paths to Exile.
Yeah, there's a number of go-wide decks in the format for the Charm as well. The Path to Exile is probably not worth bringing in just because it's Tasigur. Sometimes he has it, sometimes he doesn't. That's just kind of the agreement that you're set up for. The 2 Exquisite Firecrafts are pretty good in the matchup.
I do like that. 1 Lightning Helix is probably just worse than the other burn spells he has.
Yeah, it costs 2. Your life total is not under significant duress. It also doesn't kill Tasigur, so in the games where you're actually erasing, it doesn't do enough.
It's actually John's sideboard. Doesn't seem too live here. The only cards I want to replace in the main deck are Searing Blazes. I think I want the Firecrafts. I'm not sure I like any of these cards more than Searing Blaze. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Searing Blaze or 2 in after the sideboard.
Yeah, you can expect to see some Snapcaster Mages showing up. So Searing Blaze does some work in the matchup at various points.
Yeah. I might switch on for a Lightning Helix because at least that one always works.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all.
Looks like a mulligan here for John. Yeah, both players actually had 6 cards. As here we go for game number 2. John, a turn 1 Swift Spear. Will hit Ted to 19. Looks like I'll go to 18 on end step. I like the score pad style here on Ted's side. He's got a waiter's pad.
That's nice.
And fetches a basic island. Maybe we'll see a Thought Scour here.
Yeah, I believe I spotted one in the hand. The burn matchup's really interesting when you're playing a Grixis deck because you need to get your colors online. If you can't cast your spells, you're in a lot of trouble. In particular, if you end up in a situation where you have multiple black or red spells you have to cast on the same turn, having basic island can be a detriment. But you also don't want to take damage off your lands. So you're kind of constantly evaluating, will I save 2 life over time if I get an untapped duel and can cast more spells versus saving the life now and getting a basic island?
Thoughtscour drew him into Cryptic Command, then drew another land for the turn. Ted's hand a little heavy right now. 2 copies of Cryptic Command and some lands.
Yeah, and you really see the weakness of Cryptic Command in the matchup.
Yeah.
When you have a handful of them.
Now, it might work out here. We just see a swing from Swift Spear, and then now John will go for Eidolon. What Ted had available that turn was Counter Squall, and that's not going to do it. He has Counter Squall, Snapcaster Mage, 2 Cryptics, and 2 lands.
Yeah, this hand is kind of disgustingly poor in the matchup.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's like hands I think it would selectively be good against. If John's played there was Boros Charm Swing, it would play. You could Counter Squall it. It was really soft to Eidolon.
Yeah, this is already a mulligan. In general, hands that don't have at least 1 removal spell are asking for help from the top of the deck.
Yeah. And now he does, in theory, as a removal spell, if you're willing to Snapcaster this Lightning Bolt, you can have the Eidolon. boy, that's a lot of damage.
I mean, if John attacks with the Eidolon, you get the Snapcaster block. If they get to trade in combat, then you get the Lightning Bolt after the fact. You still take some damage from the Swift Spear, but...
Yeah, you only take one Eidolon trigger instead of 2.
Right.
I do like that more.
You might be forced into something a little bit different if you see John just main phase a bunch of spells here.
Yeah.
Because the Swift Spear just gets out of Lightning Bolt range.
Spike for John. Ted does have a counter squall, but I don't think he can really do anything with Eidolon here. And, again, I'm seeing Ted's deck wishing he had a Tasigur in play.
Right.
And
the counter squall, both players taking 2 versus you taking 3 is not really an upgrade for you.
And look at this play by John. Checks out the graveyard, spikes, and then says, I'll just swing Swift Spear. This is really well done.
Love it. This is a very good attack.
He is ahead by so much that he's just decided he doesn't want to get blown out by Snapcaster Mage. And indeed, that's the card Ted has. And now he just takes the damage.
And both players pass priority. Ted wanted John to flinch there, and when John didn't, this is so bad for Ted. His life total just keeps diminishing little by little.
Yeah, he didn't spend any of his mana that turn. Field of Ruin, that's not a third blue source, so is that a triple Cryptic hand?
It's looking like it. Yeah, I'm amazed to see this many Cryptics still in the deck.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he's priced into it, I get that, but boy, is he being punished.
Yes.
Now John end step Boros Charms, and again, he's got this counter squall that he just can't cast. John's leveraging this Eidolon so well here.
Looks like he's checking out Field of Ruin into Counter Squall. I mean, both players taking 2 is an upgrade from just taking 4, but it's not like he's realistically getting out of this. Right, that allows Ted down to 7.
Yeah, Ted takes the damage here.
Depending on Whetstone's hand, now we're in a position where you can pretty reasonably start attacking with the Eidolon just because the Snapcaster Mage is worth enough life as it is.
Yeah, John has another Boros Charm in hand. So here's a swing. Yeah, now
I like that he didn't attack last turn, and I really like that he attacked this turn as well.
Yeah, I got to pause here. There we go. Tap the right mana for Snapcaster, but he goes down to 5.
And John,
he's dead.
John has a Boros Charm.
Yeah.
There's just another Boros Charm in hand.
Oh, and a Lightning Bolt. Bolts Ted to 2. Both creatures lethal for 2 and a Charm in hand. Ted's not making it out of this turn at all.
No.
Really nice game here from John Whetstone.
Yeah, despite a minor hiccup in game 1, he still got it. And then here in game 2, pretty easily cleans up. Love the way he played it.
Yeah. John says shard value for lethal. Ted says counter squall. He's like, all right, I have Eidolon trigger. Yeah, that'll get him.
Yep.
So 2-0, John Whetstone is your winner. He improves to 10-2. A very well-played game from the Burn side, and he stays in contention as we go into the second half of the tournament.
Yep. Yeah, for Ted Gibbons, still 9-3. It's a fine record. If he can win his last 3, he should be in.
Yeah.
Find out exactly how it shakes out.